So, my friend, George Kellis, a remarkable young man, posted a note on Facebook looking for someone to split a ride with him to share the driving on what he described as a grueling 8-hour trip between Austin and El Paso, Texas. I mapped it in Google. From Austin to El Paso is 579 miles, which, if you've ever driven in West Texas, you know is not a grueling 8-hour trip, but is in fact a relatively pleasant 6-hour trip. The I-10 in West Texas speed limit is 100 miles an hour. The speed limit, that's what the signs say, 100 miles per hour. And you drive that the right hours late at night, you can do 120 easy. So Austin to El Paso should be about 6 hours, not 8 hours, for me. And I thought I would offer up some advice on the driven way to drive. I don't expect George to follow this advice. If you're not really driven, you probably shouldn't drive this way. But if you really want to know how to make tracks, how to get really far really fast, I can tell you how to do it. I've driven really far really fast an awful lot in my life. So, the first thing you do is plan your trip according to when other people will not be on the road. If I was going to do this trip, Austin to El Paso, or something even longer, if I were going to be driving, say, from Houston to Phoenix, 1,250 miles, I think, I would anticipate starting sometime after 7 o'clock at night and anticipate getting off the road somewhere around 7 in the morning, maybe later. I could drive 20 hours without stopping. I could probably drive 30 hours without stopping, without sleeping. But the ideal time to drive is from 7 at night to 7 in the morning to miss the rush hours. If you're starting in Austin and you're ending in El Paso, these are both pretty big cities, and driving in the rush hour in a big city is the way to lose a whole lot of time on the road. And that's the whole point, is to not lose time on the road. So if you want to cover an enormous amount of distance, those 12 hours, again in West Texas, 12 hours in West Texas, you should be able to cover 1,200 miles. Or something close to it, 1,000 miles. If you can drive 1,000 miles a day, you can go from New York to Los Angeles in 3 days. If you can manage to average 100 miles an hour, you can drive from New York to Los Angeles in 30 hours. When you get there, you'll sleep a lot, but you don't have to sleep at all on the way if you drive my way. So, plan your trip accordingly. If you're going to be driving during the rush hour hours, say from 7 in the morning till 10 in the morning, or from 3 in the afternoon till 7 in the evening, if you intend to be on the road in those hours, you should plan your trip so that you're out in the sticks in those hours. You're out in dead-ass nowhere. Because if you are anywhere near a city, you're going to lose time in traffic, and that's just death for making miles. But you can do that. I mean, you can plan your trip accordingly. So you start off in the city at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and you are long gone from the city by the time rush hour rolls around, and then you are driving through flat-ass nowhere 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it's no problem at all. And once it gets dark, it's no problem no matter where you are, including driving through big cities. You can drive through San Antonio at 11 o'clock at night. It will not be a problem. You may have to go a little bit slower, but you won't have to go a lot slower. My attitude is you should only stop for gas. The only stops you should make are the stops you are making when the gas tank is nearly empty. In a typical sedan, crossover, station wagon, up to a minivan, small truck, an ordinary vehicle, you should be able to get at least 300 miles per tank, and so you should anticipate you're only going to stop every 300 miles. So Austin to El Paso means literally you're only going to stop once. You're going to fill the tank before you leave Austin. You're going to stop at around the 300-mile mark, and by the time you're empty again, you're going to be in El Paso. You only need to stop one time. That means that since you're only going to stop for gas, you're going to take care of everything else that you need to do during those pit stops where you're stopping for gas. So if you need to buy food, that's when you're going to buy food, is when you stop for gas. If you need to use the bathroom, that's when you're going to use the bathroom. I hate public bathrooms. And the worst public bathrooms of all are public bathrooms at gas stations. It is indiscreet, impolite, and thoroughly rude to talk about bowel movements, but I will tell you that I never, ever, ever want to endure a bowel movement in a gas station garage, gas station bathroom. And so we're planning our trip accordingly. Before you leave your point of origin, that's when you should do any necessary serious ablutions. And therefore, the only thing that you're going to need to do when you do hit that gas station bathroom is you're going to need to pee. If you're only going to stop every 300 miles, you're going to want to watch how much liquid you're ingesting while you're driving, because liquid will be your enemy. It will create the need to pee, and then you'll need to stop when you don't need to stop for gas. You don't want to do that. So, under the heading of provisions, what kind of provisions are you going to have in the car? My advice would be to have no liquids of any sort, whatever, none. If you're going to have liquids, then have something like Starbucks double shots. They're like 4 ounces of liquid. They're almost no liquid, and they're full of caffeine. So if you're going to ingest liquid that's really dense in caffeine, because you need the caffeine to keep you from sleeping. But I recommend against liquids altogether. Instead, what my advice would be to get like a 32-ounce cup and fill it with ice cubes or ice chips. You need to ingest a certain amount of liquid in order to keep your throat from drying out, to keep your mouth moist. But sticking a little bit of ice in your mouth will do that job, thoroughly do that job, without you're ingesting very much liquid. So you won't create that desperate need to pee that will pull you off the road before you need to fill the tank. And for caffeine, my advice would be, instead of having something like double shots, my advice would be to have caffeine tablets. I buy Awake brand caffeine tablets from Walgreens, 200 milligrams of caffeine in a pill. They're horrible little pills. The time to take one of those caffeine pills is when your ice has melted enough that you've got some liquid in the bottom of the glass, and that's when you're going to consume actual liquid, is in order to wash that awful pill down. And that's the only time you're going to drink on the road. And then as far as food goes, for food in the car, my advice is little miniature candy bars, like little miniature Milky Way bars or Snickers bars or whatever kind of candy that you like. Candy is good food on the road. Candy is not good food otherwise, but it's good food on the road because it is full of sugar, which will make you perky. The sugar will maintain your blood sugar, which will help to keep you awake. And there will be, if it's like a Snickers bar or something like that, there will be a modicum of protein in there to provide some food benefit. Again, you don't want to be stuffing yourself with food, because then you're going to have to endure the indignities of a gas station bathroom in the worst possible way. I certainly don't want to do that. So that's the point of having little miniature candy bars, is that it's enough to keep you going, enough to keep you fueled without filling your body with mass that you will need to divest yourself of. And then the big job really is staying awake. My advice is push the car as fast as you can push it. Like I said, the speed limit on the I-10 in West Texas is 100 miles an hour. I push it up to 120 or so. You may operate differently. I am very driven, very, very driven, and 120 doesn't seem terribly fast to me. I don't want to go too much faster than that, because I do want to maintain some kind of reaction time in case there is a coyote in the road, or somebody has skinned a tire and left a big piece of rubber in the road or something like that. I do want to leave myself the time to swerve enough to avoid that sort of thing, but 120, why not? And in Texas, at least, the troopers have some sense. So yes, you are violating the speed limit, and you are violating the speed limit in a substantial way. It's 20% over, but it's also 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. And in another state, that might cause a problem, but the troopers in Texas have some sense, and they know that their job is to deal with accidents and bad guys and not simply people who are in a hurry, and so never had a problem being in a hurry in Texas. But you need to stay awake, and driving that fast will help substantially at keeping you awake, because you don't have any alternative to being completely alert, completely aware, completely awake. To even at 100 miles an hour, to let your concentration lapse even for half a second can prove to be fatal, and so you have a real strong incentive to stay awake. I recommend turning the sound system up really, really loud. The radio or whatever it is you have that you're listening to, turn it up really, really loud. It's difficult for your body to fall asleep, for your mind to fall asleep when there's a lot of noise. And so making the radio loud, or if you're listening to podcasts or audiobooks or whatever, by having it really, really loud, that will impede your body's ability to sleep. If necessary, I sing. When I start to get really, really drowsy, I will sing, and I will sing as loud as I can, really loud. Again, singing is activity. Activity is good. The noise is good. Singing loud will require a whole lot of blood and a whole lot of oxygen. Oxygen is good. Blood flow is good. I will take the air conditioner and make the car really, really cold, or I will actually open the windows, which is a bracing experience at 120 miles an hour. Not open them very far, but enough to get good cold air in from the outside. Fresh air, but cold air. If it's terribly hot out, you want to go with the air conditioner instead, but you want to make it really, really cold. Again, your body wants... You think about the most comfortable way to fall asleep. It's dark, it's quiet, it's warm. You couldn't be more comfortable. That's how you go to sleep. Make yourself uncomfortable, and it makes it much, much harder to be drowsy, to let your attention drift because you're sleepy. So I make it good and cold in the car. And as you're driving, 300 miles is 3 hours anyway. Close to it. If you're at 120, it'll be less than 3 hours. But it's a good solid 3 hours, and plausibly, even though you're only consuming little bits of ice at a time, plausibly 2 hours in or so, you're going to start to feel the need to pee. And that's a good thing, because again, your body finds it very, very difficult to go to sleep when you need to pee. If you're aware of all the times that you've tried to fall asleep when you had the need to go void your bladder, you remember all the times that you failed to fall asleep and instead had to get up and go pee before you could fall asleep. That need to pee is your friend. These are all, I guess they're biohacks essentially, but they're all ways of dealing with the kind of stresses that you're putting on your body in order to make really good time on the road. And if you practice this stuff, you'll get better at it. As with anything else, you'll get better at it. And so I think a 579-mile drive from Austin to El Paso sounds like really good practice for learning how to do 1,000 miles the next trip and 1,200 miles the trip after that. And I don't think 1,200 miles is at all unreasonable to do in one leg. Obviously, you're going to stop 1,200 miles. You're going to stop 3 or 4 times for gas. But other than those stops for gas, for food, to use the bathroom, to stretch your body, all of that should take less than 10 minutes. Other than those few stops on the way, you're going to be doing nothing but making progress. And this is how you get really far, really fast. So this is completely unlike a typical episode of the Church of Splendor. We didn't take on any great big ideas, but we did deal with a driven praxis that is hugely practical, and that argues that this will end up over time being one of the more popular episodes of the Church of Splendor. But in any case, I am delighted to have discussed this, even if George makes no use of my advice, and I'm delighted to have you here with me. I'll talk to you again soon.